Hello again, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. The lawnmowers can be heard already. The azaleas are blooming. The kids are counting the days. So too the grown-ups. Yep, spring is here and summer fast approaching, which means vacation time. And in the spirit of See Arkansas First, a spirit the state's hospitality industry hopes you will adopt, we thought it an opportune moment to catch up on what's happening with one of Arkansas's greatest assets, its state parks. In every corner of the land of opportunity, there are opportunities for quick and inexpensive getaways, be it a weekend, a week, or longer. Something for just about every budget. And for the next hour, our guides, so to speak, are the people in charge of those parks. Kane Webb, director of the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism, Public Information Coordinator Meg Matthews, and Joe David Rice, the department's tourism director. We have a lot of ground to cover, literally, even some underground and some mountains and a lot of water as well. And so with that, a reminder, this is your program, and your comments, your questions especially, are invited. Toll-free call, 1-800-662-2386. You can email a question, paffairs@aetn.org, or you can tweet at AETN, #ARAsk. Aren't we cyber around here?
It's very social media abuse.
Guys, thanks to all of you for coming in. We've known each other over the years, so if there's a tincture of familiarity, forgive that. We do have a lot to offer, and we lose sight, I think, of not to be Machiavellian about it or cynical about it. It is an enormous part, tourism, of the Arkansas economy.
Huge.
Kane.
Yeah, we just got our numbers from last year, and it's another record year for tourism in Arkansas. We had something like almost 29 million visitors to the state. They spent, what, $7 billion, billion with a B, and 113,000 jobs are paid for. It contributes about $500 million in state and local taxes to the coffers, and it's probably the fastest growing industry in Arkansas. So it is a big deal here. It's an industry. It's, you know, it's sometimes they think it's the fun and games department, but it's a big industry.
Well, here is an economic question, or fiscal question. Is there concern at all for this coming summer season, vacation season anyway? Gas prices are lower, and have been for a couple of years now, than historic highs, certainly. Do we feel that when gas prices are lower, Arkansans, or perhaps those from surrounding states, Texas, Oklahoma, they might go west or they might go east as opposed to coming here?
I think it's good for us. I'm going to let Joe David address that because he knows that better than I do.
I don't think it's going to be much of a factor, really, Steve, because when you get right down to the nitty-gritty, the difference in gas prices at 2 and 2 1/4 over the cost of vacations like what a pizza would cost. So it's not that big of a factor.
And we pull in so many people from Texas. Dallas is one of our biggest markets. So whatever the cost of gas, they want to come here. We offer them what they want, which are clear water and big lakes.
Yeah, well, the last time I really took a look at the tourism numbers some years ago, Texas was our biggest customer in terms of tourism.
Yeah, and we're the only place where you can find a diamond.
Yeah.
So.
I think we're still a driving state.
Yeah.
We get the surrounding states in here. When we look at some of the data recently, I think it's helping us with some states as far away as California and Florida that are coming to Arkansas, discovering us for some of our niche areas like mountain biking, which we're getting into pretty heavily, motorcycling, because we're just built for that kind of stuff. And word's getting out about that. Is Arkansas kind of an adventure state, which fits perfectly well with this new millennial generation that wants this authentic adventure experience when they go on vacation. They're trying to accumulate experiences and not things, and we're perfect for that.
Do you see a generational difference in, say, those 50 and older want perhaps a more serene, laid-back atmosphere, and the millennials may want to go water skiing or whatever?
That's a great question. I actually think that, I'm 53, and I say I'm a millennial at heart because I like what they like. I like to hike. I like adventure. I like craft beer. I like, to shop locally. So I think it's almost a mindset as much as a demographic. Yeah. But they are 85 million strong, which tops the boomers now. But we can offer it both for for Arkansas. We're just feeling, I think, and Joe David backed me up on this, we're getting a lot of push from the millennials because of what we can offer.
Can you narrow that down a little bit? What, for example, with millennials, what do they go for? What do they bite at?
They like to keep busy. As Kane says, they love to make memories. The mountain biking niche is really coming on strong in Arkansas. And it gets back, Steve, to quality of life. They're coming here and they're finding this is a great place to vacation. And many of them are going to wind up settling here, too. That's what's going on in northwest Arkansas. You know, the Greenway here in central Arkansas is really capturing a lot of imagination. Then the motorcyclist, sort of spreads across all generations. They love Arkansas because we've got a lot of routes, diverse terrain, and no helmet law.
That's true.
We recently had a couple.
You don't emphasize that. I gather you don't.
We recently had a couple who came through from Italy and took a motorcycle ride all the way through the state. And what they loved was the Johnny Cash home in Dias. Loved it. Just couldn't get enough of it. And so, we offer something that you can't find anywhere else.
What is supporting our marketing program now? In terms of appropriations or funding it?
We have about $12 or $14 million in general revenue. In special tourism tax revenue, another $4 or $5 million in general revenue. We spend probably $18 million a year trying to keep this $7 billion economy going.
That's the 2% tax. I think it was in that.
That's correct.
It was passed 20 years ago, Amendment 75.
That's the one, 1/8. But with the 2%, the special revenue, and it goes directly to promoting and marketing the state. And it sounds like it's like $15, $16, $17 million. But it's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses. You could look at other states' budgets; they're huge. And Mississippi, surrounding states are just as big as ours. The return on investment is about 10 to 1, and you can tell what we're getting by the numbers that we're getting from that 2% tourism tax. It's a great accountability measure. When you see that this month compared to a year ago, the same month is up percentage-wise in that tax, it means we're getting people into the state. It's largely a heads and beds tax, so you can see it and account for it and measure it in a way you can't some other industries.
And this is accounted for or measured, say, in hotel, motel, park rentals, restaurant meals, even beverage sales.
All those, yes.
Yep.
We had the president of the U.S. Travel Association in Arkansas last week, and he was looking at our numbers and saying we're growing 2 or 3 times as fast as the national average. So we've got some good things happening, and you've sort of kept up with our industry for many years now, and if you look closely, our product is nowhere near what it was 20 years ago. We have really improved by leaps and bounds, giving more people more reasons to come see the state and bring their friends and family along.
What are the obstacles that your department encounters, or that the industry encounters right now?
I think, go ahead, Jeff.
We
you
don't
could
have
snap
as many,
your fingers and make something better. If you could snap your fingers and do away with something, what would it?
Well, this will probably annoy some of your listeners and your viewers, but the liquor laws are confusing. We have people coming to the state, they want to have a fine meal, and they want to have perhaps a glass of wine, and we say, Dry County can't do that. And that's really hard to explain to somebody from Europe why you can't get a glass of Chardonnay with a meal.
Yeah, and we still face some of the problem that's kind of an age-old problem, and that people don't know Arkansas as well as they should. We're still a secret to too many folks. So as far as getting the word out still, because we find if you get them here, they love it, and they're often surprised. We recently had a huge world summit for mountain biking in Bentonville in November, and we had people from 40 states, 11 countries show up in Bentonville. And it was like they had found mountain biking nirvana. It was new to them. They couldn't believe it. But it's once you get the word out, once they find it, they're going to come back. So we're still having trouble doing that. It is made easier by social media, by the way you can consume and disseminate information now. So I still think we've got a problem of getting the word out about Arkansas. We also are going to try to dip our toe in the international waters. Joe David talks a lot about how we've now got some international attractions. Clinton Presidential Center, Crystal Bridges, the Johnny Cash Dice, a family home in Dice, which is a huge international attraction. So there's a reason to come to Arkansas besides our natural scenic beauty.
Back to the liquor laws or alcohol laws, because there has been some legislation in this session. Do you find that Sunday package, there are some venues which are engaging in Sunday package sales? Is that a big problem or obstacle or what?
Well, things have changed so much. For instance, at a lot of the brew pubs now, you can go in and buy a beer. You can even buy a growler on Sundays. So I think we've overcome a lot of that stuff. We still have a few isolated areas where it's not quite so progressive, shall we say, but we've made a lot of progress.
What's our biggest competition? What do we need that, say, an adjoining state has, and we could take a bite out of if only we could?
I think one of the biggest challenges is we don't have the perception problem we had years ago, but people don't know what we have here. And one of our big challenges is letting folks know, yes, we have fine dining in Arkansas, we have fine lodging, we have this wonderful, diverse array of experiences. It's getting the message out. I think that's probably our biggest challenge.
We're getting new rides all the time. To put it bluntly, we were talking about the Crystal Bridges and the Johnny Cash home and the Clinton Center, and that helps us too. But I agree with Joe David. It's letting people know that we've got what everyone else has. If you go down the list, I think we hit all the boxes. You can do anything here. You get an authentic experience. You can shop. You can find great places to eat. So it's just getting that message to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and to get it to large urban areas where they have a lot of traffic, it feels very overcrowded. You can come to Arkansas and get these incredible experiences, and it's very manageable, and it's very cost effective as well. And that really makes a big difference for travelers.
Got to bring this up because it has been so much in the news. The issue, the damage that we are told was sustained, for example, in North Carolina, that presumably Texas is risking, if that theory holds, and perhaps some other states, and that is adopting legislation, they're called bathroom bills for sure, that are deemed by some corporate and nonprofit and some athletic leagues, conferences, as being hostile, as being discriminatory. They haven't gone anywhere in Arkansas this session. Would those pose an obstacle? Are you concerned of it?
Absolutely.
Start with the director.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were concerned, and we let our opposition be known. You point out, I pointed out this a couple of weeks ago when the Razorbacks were playing in Greenville, South Carolina. Those games were in South Carolina and not in North Carolina because of the bathroom bill. If you look at some of the data that's come out of North Carolina, and Joe David knows the data pretty well, and the potential issues that could have caused in Texas, it could have been devastating to that part of our economy. It's a perception thing. It is an economic issue. It is a business issue. And some events would simply mark you off the list.
And yet we are the home to, some of the most progressive land sites in the country. I mean, there is a tree that was taken from outside of Anne Frank's home. 2 of those saplings are in Little Rock, Arkansas. One outside the Bill Clinton Presidential Center, one outside Central High School.
There seems to be a gap anyway between religious discrimination and gender/sexuality discrimination, if you want to call it that. A much more electric issue than a matter of ethnicity or faith.
Yeah.
We think we've dodged the bullet, and we're hopeful that we can do what the governor suggests and just let that issue lie and just keep moving Arkansas forward.
Yeah.
Well, there's another image issue, and this one made Mr. Hutchinson's must-do list, and that's bifurcating, they're separating the Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert E. Lee birthdays. That has now been accomplished.
Yeah.
Will we be able to see that
have an effect on tourism?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was definitely the right thing for him to do. And we got some pretty good press around the country for doing so. It made us look like we were a step ahead. I think it was a necessary move, and I applaud the governor for doing that. As to whether it won't hurt us, how about that? I mean, it's not going to have a detrimental effect, and I think it could help us. I don't know if it's going to have any measurable impact.
As it was structured, we looked backward, and it looked like some compromise that was worked out in some back rooms that made no sense to anybody, and I think we've stepped forward past that.
Well, and here's one more hot button issue in this session, which is even still in the news because legislation in form of amendments anyway is still pending, and that is the firearms issue. What are how does that balance sheet balance? Does it?
I don't think it's going to be
campus carry, and but it's been exponentially expanded.
I don't think it's quite so inflammatory as some of the others. I mean, Arkansas has positioned itself as a natural state for 30 years. We're known for our hunting. I don't think that's going to cause a lot of pushback like the other issues.
Well, we've just mentioned, though, athletic events. We don't know what we don't know at this point because legislation is still pending.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That might. Legislation introduced today and passed by the Senate, but it's also incurred the wrath of the National Rifle Association, and that was a legislation which apparently Mr. Hutchins, the governor, supports, which would exempt or ban firearms from publicly supported sports venues.
Yeah, it's interesting that a bill that's been signed into law is still kind of in play. You know, and you mentioned we've got amendments that could be coming. We've got the NRA's attention again, so it probably is a little premature to discuss it, but we're hopeful that amendments that might affect things like college basketball or college sporting events will be taken into consideration as the bill evolves. But you know, I agree with Joe David. I don't think we're going to. It's not the issue for us that say the bathroom bill would be. I don't think. It's still really early.
So the department then would not necessarily have a position on exempting sports arenas from firearms? I mean, you testified on the bathroom. You made your preferences known there.
I would like to see something that exempts collegiate athletic events. Yeah.
I'd like to see an easy question from the audience.
Yeah.
Somehow we've stumbled on to Arkansas Week.
We haven't even gotten to the audience yet. Those are all mine.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, we'll go to. But anyway, as you mentioned, we have had some viewer questions coming in. How is there a mechanism, or do you anticipate some sort of messaging will be necessary, no matter how the gun bill finally shakes out, to brief tourists as to what the laws in the state are in terms of concealed carry? Or
I don't think they have to
any
be
kind of obstacle.
Well, they're not briefed right now. We have concealed carry laws currently.
To a certain extent, yeah.
So we follow the law.
And other states have gone down this path already. Texas, for one, and I don't think it's had any adverse effect on that state, and I don't think it's going to have anything here that we have to worry about.
All right. Well, but in terms of the legislation as adopted and signed into law now, will the state park facilities, if your Devil's Den or Petty Jean, any of them,
are we going to put up some signs?
What will be the standard?
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to discuss, and we're going to have to see what the final law looks like, Steve. I'm not trying to avoid the question, but until we get there, I don't know. I was talking to our Parks Director, Grady Spann, about this very thing today, and we're just going to have to cross that bridge, and obviously we'll follow the law, but figure out the best way to handle it with our guests in our state parks.
Once again, we invite your questions. Those are some of mine. The phone.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, we'll see. 1-800-662-2386. Email questions, paffairs@aetn.org, or you can tweet at AETN, #ARAsk. This one came in over Facebook. How will the proposed, it's not much of a budget yet, it was more of a schematic anyway that Mr. Trump, President Trump, has submitted to Congress. His broadest outline, what does it spell for parks and tourism in Arkansas?
May I take a shot at that?
Yes, and I bet you're going to say the same thing I said.
It's not going to really impact our department as such, but what it's going to do is it's going to lessen the Arkansas experience, because 70% of the campgrounds in Arkansas are owned by the federal government, and they're going to be closing some Corps of Engineer campgrounds. We've already been told by the National Park Service they're going to have to pull back, and we have 7 great units of the National Park System here, and they're not going to be able to offer the kind of experience that people have had in years past. So we're very concerned about the long-term impact of those cuts.
Yeah, there'll be some consequences that will hurt us. For example, the Delta Regional Authority, that's on the chopping block in his budget. I'd hate to see the DRA go away, because it does do a lot of good for some programs in the Arkansas Delta, and that affects the visitor experience too. So it will have an effect on Arkansas.
I was just going to say, I'm going back to Amendment 75 that was passed 20 years ago, the 1.8 cent sales tax, and so you know, Arkansas voters were looking way ahead in the future, and luckily so, because there are other states that are having to cut their budgets because they don't have that kind of a dedicated funding resource. But Arkansas voters voted that in, and so that keeps us funded.
This is all actually a call from Butler County, Missouri, and if I could kind of extrapolate a bit or doctor the question just a bit, I think the viewer is asking, with so many parts of Missouri so strongly resembling many parts of Arkansas in terms of landscape, the topography, and so forth, why should somebody from Missouri come to Arkansas?
Because we're Arkansas. That's a great question.
The weather.
I think we... Go ahead, Joe.
We have some, and the caller's exactly right, although the highest point in Missouri is only 1,600 feet. Our highest point's 2,750. Our waterfalls are bigger, our rapids are more white and all that.
Nevertheless, that question.
We've got Crystal Bridges, they don't. We've got the Johnny Cash Wood at home, they don't. We've got the Clinton Center, they don't. So
it's an interesting
you
point,
can start getting into that.
People will cross that state line, They don't pay much
Diamonds.
attention. They'll check out what's going on in Branson and come down to Eureka. So we let travelers cross that line without any problem.
A Craighead County viewer wonders if we are adequately, if I understand the question, are we adequately training and preparing our parks personnel to greet visitors?
Oh, absolutely. There's in-service training constantly. And let me tell you, I've been with parks for a year now, and I have yet to have met somebody who is not the most sincere person.
Amazing.
I mean, they are completely dedicated to their job. They do this with a passion. They love it, and it shows every time that they interact with a visitor.
From Pulaski, what has been, or how does the department regard the great controversy that stems from the swine farm up over or near in the Buffalo watershed?
Man.
Joe David?
Let's see. We're concerned about what's going to happen up there eventually, because we all know that, for instance, the Titan II missile, they said we're never going to have trouble there. The Deepwater Horizon, we're never going to have trouble there. The water supply up at Charleston, West Virginia, we're never going to have trouble there. At some point, we're going to have trouble there, and I just hope that we can cope with it, because one thing in the tourism business is perception is reality, and when and if we have a disaster there, people are going to be thinking that the whole state of Arkansas is contaminated. We're going to be facing a real serious crisis communication problem. So we're hopeful that that some solution can be worked out before we have any serious issue.
Yeah, I would add to, our agency is among, I think, 4 or 5 that are part of the governor's Buffalo River Action Committee that is trying to take a look at the Buffalo River watershed and be a little proactive on that issue. Joe David mentions, I think what do you get, 1 million visitors a year that come just for the Buffalo?
Yeah.
And its attraction is that it's pristine. It's it's a national river, and it's been treated as a jewel, which it is, and we need to keep it that way.
And there are a lot of citizen advocates out there who are really
Any way
fighting.
you could shake down visitors to take spray paint away from them before they go to the Buffalo River?
I don't know.
Get a little more staffing, maybe.
We try to shake them down when it comes to money, not paint so much.
That's also a national river. That's National Park Service.
Yeah, you can ask them.
Yeah, we'll dodge that.
A Magnolia grandmother. Here's from Columbia County. This is a question from a grandmother who would like to take a young grandson, and she identifies them obviously as South Arkansas folks down around.
We call that
Louisiana.
L.A., Lower Arkansas.
Although some people from Roanoke County would say the city of Roanoke use the same expression. Anyway, they're moving, they want to explore Northwest Arkansas. What are the state's options for them?
They want to go Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, they just want to go day trip it or maybe take a few days in Northwest Arkansas. What would you recommend?
There are probably 5 more restaurants that opened in Bentonville since you read that question.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on there.
From Magnolia with grandchildren, I might work my way up, go through Hot Springs, let them check out that area, then maybe go on up to have lunch at Mountain Magazine, and then continue up. We've got some great trails at Devil's Den State Park, and then places such
Lake
as
Fort Smith, too, has a great...
Lake Fort Smith has brand new, gorgeous cabins. you were out in the middle of nowhere, and it has great cable as well.
And one great place for children is Turpentine Creek Refuge outside Eureka. There's like 200 big cats there, and they're not in pens, not in cages, they're in big pens, they're roaming around, and kids love it. It's just a great place to see the wild, lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Let's put a plug in for the Amazian too.
Yes.
And Hobbs State Park is the biggest state park in the state, and they have a visitor center that's wonderful. They have all kinds of hiking trails that go from difficult to easy, so everything in between.
Depending on their taste in cuisine, is that a good inexpensive vacation? We have a grandmother who wants to take a grandson to Northwest Arkansas. Can she do it on a budget?
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
So.
Parks are all free.
Parks, yeah.
That's right.
Parks are free.
Well, I mean,
Stay
you've got
in
overnight
campground
accommodations that
parks.
she has to.
Yeah.
But
I
even
think
staying at state parks, I mean, you wouldn't believe the pricing is really, really very fair and reasonable, especially if you stay in a cabin, with little kids. They have kitchens where you can cook, in the cabin, and you can all stay in the one place.
Let me hop back to a question that would come up periodically when I was covering the commission somewhat, and that would: do we have too many state parks? Are we spread too thin?
Well, we have 52 state parks, and many of them are like little cities. And so that means you're constantly having to deal with issues that come up like every day, day-to-day maintenance stuff.
Toilets, roofs.
Yeah, the whole
streets,
shebang.
yeah.
Infrastructure, plus you need to put a few new rides in there on occasion. We do have a moratorium on the number of state parks that we have that our Parks, Recreation, and Travel Commission put in. How many years ago was that, Jim?
About 20, well, when the conservation met was 10, so
20 years ago.
So
years.
we've kind of been at 52 for a while. I certainly don't think we need to add any, given our funding situation.
We have
Steve,
so many.
Go ahead.
There are just so many different kinds of state parks. Not every state park has a full staff. There's a cemetery that doesn't have any staff. There are some that are recreational. There are some that are historical. So it covers so many varieties of activities.
From West Arkansas, Sebastian County viewer wonders where he or she could go to do some horseback riding.
Village Creek State Park.
Find a horse and
Here's the thing. You go to Village Creek State Park, you bring your horse and you get to camp with it. How about that? Or at Devil's Den, the same thing.
Yeah.
And we have a concessionaire, don't we, at DeGray?
Yes. You can rent a horse there as well, and you don't have to have any experience.
And there are a couple of dude ranches, and I should plug our website, arkansas.com, and we have dude ranches listed there where you can go spend a night in cabin and have a horse provided.
What about breakfast? No, don't worry about it. Jefferson County. It does go back to the interplay, though, between state and federal. This question does between state and federal efforts on tourism. Jefferson County viewer wonders if current federal fiscal policy or proposed policy would prompt the Corps of Engineers to scale back some of its facilities in Arkansas.
Oh, they're already doing that. They've been doing that for years, and they closed a couple more campgrounds annually. In fact, the viewer probably knows that only about half the campgrounds the Corps originally built up and down the Arkansas River even open these days.
And not much, I would suspect, not much prospect of reversing that.
No. In fact, it's going to continue unless something happens.
Yeah, they got plans to close some more.
Okay, this is fair enough. A viewer wants to know, we'll start with Joe David Rice. If you were going to go on vacation in Arkansas, and assuming, surely you do, what's your favorite?
Always on vacation.
What's your favorite?
That's our job.
Oh, we're having fun. All right. What's your favorite Arkansas vacation spot?
Oh, man.
Well, I'm going to say one that's a little bit unusual. My wife and I like to hike, and a place that's not very well visited is the Cossatot River State Park in southwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, we hiked the 12.5-mile Cossatot River corridor trail, and we saw 5 people on the trail in a full day. Saw some of the best whitewater scenery in America, and just had a grand time. So that's sort of an out-of-the-way place that I can recommend.
Okay.
I love Lake Washita State Park down by Hot Springs. The lake is gorgeous. It's pristine. You can go kayaking, do all kinds of water sports. There's camping. We call it primitive camping. There's primitive camping available. You can also rent out gorgeous cabins that have a beautiful lake view, as well as camper cabins. So you bring your own linens, and you know, it's a great way to glamp.
Glam.
Yes, glamour camping.
Kane?
Not to piggyback on Meg, but I'm a Hot Springs guy. I was born in Hot Springs, kind of grew up at Oaklawn a little bit, probably too much. And
Vapors, maybe?
no. I'm not that old, Steve. And I love Lake Washita. Family went to Bill Barnes's Mountain Harbor forever, and we still love that. I've become really enamored with 2 state parks cabins since I've become director. One's Devil's Den. I just love those CCC cabins. And I really like Lake Chico. I think it's got great bird watching, and I'm not even a birder, but I love to go down there.
Several questions. Here's one from Saline. We've touched on this, but it's worth, I guess, going back to. It's from Saline County down sort of south central Benton County, northwest. Any possibility of the state stepping in to pick up some of the slack left by the Corps of Engineers scaling back?
You know, no, because we have about $270 million in backlog projects that we're always trying to catch up to. Thank goodness for the 8-cent conservation tax, but we're trying to take care of what we have and stay. No, we just don't have the money.
Again from Pulaski, high walls being built along highways, making it impossible to see some parts of the natural state. That seems to me to be more of an urban.
I don't know of any.
A
Are
sort
they
of Interstate
something?
630 sort of thing. I mean, or maybe in North Little Rock along 40.
A lot of times that has to do with actually the city that's within that area. They have those zoning laws.
On a related matter, and I don't want to upset my friends at the highway department, but you know, when I was a kid, you drive across these bridges, you could look down and check out the water, and now you cross these bridges, you can't see anything. So I would say that's a valid complaint.
Is the department concerned about another aspect of, we're talking about bridges, highways, about our infrastructure? We've got some pretty bad roads out there that we're dealing with, and commercial interest always complaining about trying to get a highway built through. It looks like it's not in good shape for this session anyway. How big a concern is that to a tourism entrepreneur or executive?
15 or 20 years ago, I would get a letter a month from somebody from out of state who had hit a pothole on one of the highways and they wanted the state to pay for a front end alignment or a new tire. And I haven't gotten a letter like that in a couple years. I think the highway
department... You want one?
No. I think the highway department has done a great job with the funds they have. So I think our road system is vastly improved over what it has been. But on the other hand, the infrastructure with, you know, some of the bridges, they're concerned about the stability of some of the bridges. So I think ultimately it's going to be a problem. I don't think it's a big problem right now.
Go ahead, Matt.
We've seen some great public-private partnerships. The big river crossing over the Mississippi River from Memphis to West Memphis. So that's a partnership between is it Union Pacific? Help me out.
And the local folks, yes.
Yeah.
Right, and now it's become a pedestrian and bicycle bridge.
Any way to identify how much golf plays a part in our economy, and I assume in state and out of state? You know, somebody from Little Rock wanting to play a new course in Bentonville, or...
We're trying to take advantage of that by our natural state golf trail, trying to cross-sell the state. But frankly, golfing is losing somewhat of its charm. In this country, every 2 days, a public course closes because there's not as many golfers as we once had. That said, we have 2 fine courses in our state park system.
Yes, Village Creek and DeGray. And they offer all kinds of different golfing. You can fling golf, which is like using a lacrosse stick. I recommend that you go to our website and look up how I learned how to play it. And then they also have things like golf safaris where you take a golf cart out at night and go look for wildlife. So there are all kinds of ways to use that kind of a resource.
But to sort of get more back to your question, we do research at our welcome centers and about 5% of our visitors play golf.
Do they come for the golf experience, or do they just incidentally?
The latter, pretty much. We don't have like the Robert Trenton Jones golf trail they have in Alabama. We would love to get to that point, but we're not there yet.
Another question. We mentioned Crater of Diamonds earlier, or Meg did. There would appear to be, according to this viewer, a serious parking problem at the Crater of Diamonds. It's insufficient.
It's a really popular park, especially when they keep getting the...
7.44 carat diamond found by a 14-year-old boy. I met him and his father the other day. His father said, I bought my wife's engagement ring at Walmart. I didn't even know what 7.44 carats look like, but now he does. And
I think since they found the Esperanza diamond, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
The popularity, it's always been a popular park, but it's just kind of boomed since then.
yeah, they get a lot of international visitors, so they get big buses coming in. But they're constantly doing upgrades.
Yeah, but no present plan to significantly extend parking at the
I don't know that detail.
We will take a look at that.
Yes.
We'd rather have too many cars there than not enough. That's our story.
I'm sticking to it.
Odds for tourism run Arkansas 84, but okay. Did the department place an ad in the Arkansas Baptist News magazine?
We might well have. I'm not sure.
Paid ad because we have a viewer who's concerned with separation of church and state.
Well, if we did, we'd probably put one in the Methodist magazine as well, and a few others. It's like we buy ads in the little co-op magazines. We're just trying to reach potential visitors, and it's not that we're favoring the Baptist.
Fast food place. Thinks a law should be passed to tax fast food places for all the litter they bring. Signed, Michael Bloomberg. No, I'm just kidding. Boy, we're having a hard time
to
here.
enforce. Yeah.
Well, we have a division in our department, Keep Arkansas Beautiful, and they keep up with litter and try to look into ways to decrease it constantly.
Well, there is a serious question there. I mean, you do spend quite a bit. It takes quite a bit of effort and money to keep them clean. Parks, even when your campers and other visitors are making an effort.
It's a constant effort.
To do so themselves.
Ultimately, it's up to the people, to pick up after themselves.
Yeah.
The KAB folks are making a concentrated effort to raise the next generation of kids that understand that they don't need to litter, and we think it's sort of a generational deal, and maybe in a few years, those old ones among us that litter will die off, and we'll have a bunch of fresh ones that are environmentally conscious.
And they eat better, too.
Yeah.
So fewer fast food.
Right.
Is there a way that a taxpayer, this is a Washington County viewer, how can a taxpayer who appreciates state parks and wants to see them maintained, how can he or she make that opinion known?
Oh, well, they're state
the
parks.
Friends Systems, the Friends program.
Yes, there are groups that are organized volunteers with almost each state park, and they go out and do cleanup days all the time, and it's not limited to just that group. They invite visitors, whoever wants to come out and help. And of course, our staff is out there leading them along the way, showing them where it needs to be done, and it's actually a very good time. It's really fun.
You guys keep referring to mountain biking, so anyway, here's one that involves mountain biking. This is from a viewer who would like to point out that now that Arkansas has the Mo in mountain biking and is actually, he or she says, tied for second place with Colorado for the number of
Epic trails.
IMBA epic rated single track trails.
This is somebody who really likes to mountain bike.
This is someone who knows what they're. This is a mountain
You mean
bike.
you don't mountain bike?
No.
Yet.
Oh, we got to take you out.
No, you don't.
Oh, yes.
What is there? Is there a plan to increase available funding to promote or continue that?
Well, we're building trails all the time. We've got 22 state parks with mountain bike trails in them right now, I think. And our trails are our most popular draw in our state park. I'd also have to compliment the Walton Family Foundation has been a huge advocate for mountain biking and trail building, not just in Northwest Arkansas, but throughout the state. And the more people we get here for that, the more trails you're going to see.
From a viewer. Yes. Yeah, and I don't know whether this is for fishing, skiing, or what, but would we know the average temperature of Arkansas's lakes in June and August?
That sounds like a Joe Davis.
Water temp.
That does.
We know them. We don't know them here.
I would say idyllic.
I would probably say 70 degrees in June, 85, 90 degrees in August.
I'd say it's comfortable at all times for some part of the population.
Well, I was thinking, well, I think they wanted to know water temps, and I assume that.
It really depends on the lake. I mean, you know, some of them are very, very deep. Some of them are very, very big. Some of them have, you know, meet up with a river. So there are just so many variables. But, you can go onto our website, and a lot of times there's a link. I know with Cossatot, you can link to someplace that gives you the temperatures and how the river's running.
A full-time RVer, why doesn't Parks and Tourism allow volunteers to do more of the cleanup?
We do.
You do. I think I just said
And we'd
that.
like more.
Yeah.
Call you guys.
Yeah.
Pick up litter. If anybody ever
Do
wants to
it,
pick up
yeah.
litter at a state park, nobody is ever going to stop you.
No tickets, I guarantee.
A Boone County viewer, Harrison, Harrison isn't Boone County, trying to get a historic district demarcated. Can you offer any assistance in that regard? And I'm not sure what part of Boone County or Harrison.
I think one of our sister agencies would be best to do that. Stacy Hurst and her colleagues at the Department of Arkansas Heritage have historic preservation programs, and they've got some experts there that we can't touch.
Mm-hmm. And they'll lead you through the process.
Again, a lot of questions about, and we've covered this, but a lot of viewers are asking questions about the impact of the weapons bill, the gun bill, the concealed carry on tourism. And let's honor their calls anyway, because they are. Do you anticipate Parks and Tourism declaring or that there will be firearms-free zones in some state parks?
All I can say right now is we're going to follow whatever the law is. And it's still evolving, as you know.
I don't think there are firearm-free zones right now. And state parks. I say that slowly. I keep hoping one of them is going to interrupt me.
Yeah, but satisfy my curiosity. Is there are no restrictions now on it? But for example, if someone has a concealed carry permit now,
it is whatever the law is that goes all the way through.
Parks and Tourism does not prohibit, or under the law, I guess even the existing law could not prohibit possession of a certified.
Yeah, we'll follow the law.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's only one state park in which you can hunt, and the rest you can't. So, there are restrictions in that regard.
Are there parks guides for individual counties, or are they regional? Joe David, you brought it show and tell time.
Let's see. There you go. You can hold it up for them.
That's just out, too. It's our new state parks guide. We also have individual information guides for our 52 state parks.
This really is a wonderful resource. You can find the state park, you can find the area of the state you want to go to, and then look up the state park. Also, our website, arkansasstateparks.com, you can just click on the icon. It brings up all kinds of valuable information. Really easy. Also, it provides a phone number directly for that park, and I promise you, the employees would love to answer all your questions.
And these would be obtainable how? Just call your office or go
1-800-NATURAL. We'll get them out. They call tonight. We'll try to get it out, if not tomorrow, by Monday. And they can also go to arkansas.com and order information.
We talked earlier about golfing, attracting golfers, and the biker or trail biking and fishing. Is there any concentrated effort on Parks and Tourism's part anyway, or is this a game and fish function, and that's to attract out-of-state hunters? This is Johnson County viewer.
We haven't done a lot with hunting. We've done some with duck hunters. We brought in some riders, and they've given some good coverage. One thing that we're scared of doing, and I'll be a little bit candid here, this Johnson County person probably got his or her favorite deer hunting spot up in the Ozark National Forest, and if he or she showed up there and there's a family from Texas camping out there hunting where the old big buck has been seen, they're not going to be happy with us. So we haven't made a concentrated effort to bring in deer hunters, feeling that people that want to go deer hunting probably already know about Arkansas.
Young children, with specific reference to Mount Magazine. Plenty for them to do, and is it safe outside at that altitude?
Absolutely. I would go up to the Butterfly Festival that they have annually. It's really fun. It's a very hands-on experience. They have specific programs just for kids. Again, crafts, and also events where they hike around and look for butterflies.
You ask about safety. To keep the aesthetic appeal of the park, we don't have fences everywhere, so kids could tumble off. So keep an eye on your kids, because there's some pretty steep drops there.
Are they putting, big rocks around fishing lakes as So people can't fall from the banks. Well, I mean, that's sort of along the same lines. At some point, personal responsibility would seem to...
I think you're on
Common sense goes a long way.
Okay, this one is...
Stay out of the water.
Yeah. How do tourism groups like #TravelSouth help represent Arkansas?
We bring in that Travel South group, brought them in last week, and we have two different groups. We have a group of journalists, and they're exposed to Eureka Springs, Turpentine Creek, Crescent Hotel, Crystal Bridges, downtown Bentonville, Razorback Greenway. They go back and write stories. And then we also have a group of tour operators, and we show them many of the similar sites, and they go back and then sell their tours to customers, and we'll bring a busload of them in, and they'll spend a couple nights and drop a couple $1,000s in the state.
So is it a question of mostly spell the name right in terms of promoting the state?
Get into the right place
Arkansas?
and spell the name right. Yeah, and he mentioned some of the international folks. I think he did, that we had in recently in the Arkansas, East Arkansas, the Delta, and ordinarily they would not cross that river. And suddenly we got them into Arkansas, and they're looking at the Johnny Cash home, and they're looking at Walnut Ridge and the Beatles Walk and what Mayor Snap has done there, and they're amazed at it. And they go home and they're going to write about it and give us some publicity and come back. But
go back in history a bit, because it's something that was said earlier on the broadcast by one or more of you, and that was people don't always know where we are. I can recall back during the first Clinton gubernatorial.
I know where you're going.
A double truck and the two-page ad in the Wall Street Journal featuring a huge map of the United States, and here's Arkansas, and that occasioned widespread political ridicule, singed Mr. Clinton, and several of us did some reporting on it. But that ad was based on an enormous amount of data that indicated, in fact, people, including Fortune 500 CEOs, had no idea where Arkansas was. They thought it was somewhere near Nebraska or on the other side of Arizona. And that was a big obstacle to getting industrial type commercial work down here. Is it still that big an issue in tourism? Hunting, fishing, sports, water skiing, mountain biking, whatever.
Our whole product, our whole image has changed so much in the last 25 years. I think the Clinton presidency put Arkansas on the map, you know, literally and figuratively. I think the Presidential Library has put Arkansas on the map. Crystal Bridges has put Arkansas on the map. So I don't think we have that geographical problem that we had 2 generations ago.
I think technology as well, the internet and social media. You know, people who are attracted to mountain biking, they find out information from social media. And so they don't rely upon traditional media sources to get what they want. So.
But I still think we can expand outside our ag and get more people. We had a focus group last year in Phoenix, and I was still a little bit amazed at some of the people who hadn't been here and didn't know. I mean, the state they were describing sounded more like Mississippi or Alabama. They just didn't have any concept of what we had. So we still have some educating to do. Yeah. I heard, you know, you brought up the politics around me when in '92 when George H.W. Bush said Arkansas was between Oklahoma and Texas, right?
So,
yeah.
Well, actually, it was about 20 years before you made that here. But at any rate, do we have such a thing as a one price all parks pass in Arkansas?
Yes, they're free.
Tell us about it. I mean, you know, we've got a viewer here who's kind of curious about it. He or she just came back from Nebraska, or apparently spent some time in Nebraska, and for a set fee in the Cornhusker State, you can, according to this viewer,
yeah, and well, for our set fee is $0.
Exactly.
You can go to all 52.
You don't have to open up your wallet at all. Come on in. We'd love to have you for
you can
free.
Spend all day at Pettigene, Devil's Den, wherever, and the only money you'll spend is if you buy some food or beverage. Now, the only exception is the Ozark Folk Center, where we do have an admission, but that's, you know, 1 out of 52.
With all the talk about mountain biking or trail biking, are we too restrictive inside state parks on such vehicles as ATVs?
That carries with it a whole nother set of circumstances, I think, than mountain biking.
And I'm thinking there was some legislation run just this session, and I'm drawing a blank as to what it was, but I had to deal with that. So
one problem with
research
ATVs is they require a pretty good amount of space, and in most of our parks we don't have that much room. And
well, this viewer said ATVs.
ATV, yes.
Yeah.
To you know, go up and down the trails, and,
right.
And there's some pretty serious environmental consequences on many of our lands if you have ATV use. We just haven't been able to justify it so far.
Will unanswered questions be posted on a website for answer? Probably not. I don't know.
You can do that, Steve.
No, I don't have any stick around here.
I've been answering most of these questions.
I feel good about it.
A Saline County viewer, just kidding, travels all over the country in Arkansas, has the best hookups for RVs by far. Thank you.
Great.
Is that its own niche in terms of marketing, or?
It is, yeah.
Well, it's its own specific group of travelers.
Yeah.
They're looking for something very specific, and when they find it, you know, they spread the word. They have their own community. So yeah, I think our hookups are great.
I think we have the best state park system in the country. We really do. The voters that passed the conservation amendment really empowered us to make some good investments. And back to the RV question, if you look at that RV park just north of the Clinton Center on the North Little Rock side, that thing's running about 80% occupancy year-round because there's so many of those folks looking for a quality experience.
Is there a threat to those parks? They're the best in the world, the best in the country, you say, Joe David. Is there, do you see a threat to that? I mean, is it something the hospitality establishment or the parks establishment had best keep its eye on?
Well, we need to make sure that we recognize these are pretty good investments for the taxpayers, and we've got to keep on the operation and maintenance, because we can't let them get the way they were back in the 70s.
Yeah.
We had an embarrassing system in the 70s, and we've got a really good system now. We've got to keep it up.
And just making sure that we encourage people to get here and experience it. It's just constantly raising awareness, getting the word out.
Yeah. Would you kindly mention once again, where does the viewer go online to get information about state parks?
ArkansasStateParks.com.
That ought to work. How much advertising is done out of state as opposed to in-state?
Probably about 80% of our advertising is done outside the state, and I know that may not sit well with some of your viewers, but when you get down to it, Steve, our job is economic development, and we can get a lot more tax dollars generated by a family coming in from Texas spending a week here than somebody from, Conway going over to Pine Bluff for a day. So we spend our money trying to bring people in.
Sure. Newton County, once again, we've touched on this earlier, but the question's a bit more specific, and it's overtly political in terms of it being a policy question. Dry counties...
You always look at me.
I shall read it verbatim. Dry counties are affecting tourism. Can the law for consumption of alcohol be made statewide? Compare revenue, the viewer challenges, income between dry and wet counties.
Well, it can if the vote, I mean, we tried it, right? A couple of years ago, they had that on the ballot, and it came close to passing. So it's, run it again. It has, but even so, county by county, it changes pretty dramatically in the last 5 years.
UMS faculty and student parking sometimes sacrificed to events at War Memorial. Live with it. Not having the butterfly...
Hire him.
Not having...
We try to work in coordination with UMS and the
I
health
spared you
department.
that one.
Well,
Thank you.
and we just got
And
War
we'll figure it
Memorial.
out.
We're going to have
There's
going to be a study into War Memorial and how it's going to be used. And so we'll have some more definite answers later.
I liked your answer.
Not having the Butterfly Festival in June any longer because the Mountain Magazine State Park pulled out. What?
Mount Magazine has an annual butterfly festival. It's wonderful. I don't know if that is in conjunction with perhaps another festival.
I don't know, and the viewer
I don't know
doesn't make
either,
that clear. You
but
got about
Mount
2
Magazine
minutes left
does
to
have-
try your question again, and
Okay.
no
Give us
kidding,
another
we'll
shot.
try to get it in there. Park travel guides, will you please repeat the number if that was, or you can go online?
1-800-NATURAL.
Good enough, or ArkansasStateParks.com.
or Arkansas.com.
Now, what do you want the park system to be? Is the name of the game right now, given meaning the fiscal restraints, the policy restraints affected by fiscal policy, where do you want the park? What's the name of the game? Is it to maintain what we have, to expand? What's the best we can do is to maintain
we want to
it?
maintain what we have. We want to have continue to have the best park system in the country, and that means we've got this wonderful 8-cent tax that helps us fund our park system, that has turned it around. We need to keep that dedicated to our park system, and that would help us. That will help us.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything?
I think Arkansans appreciate their parks, and we'd like more of them to get out and check out parks they haven't been to.
Interesting question. Do we know what percentage of Arkansans what percentage of Arkansans do see Arkansas first? tough to cut that demographic, I guess, or to really assess, for example, how many people in Chico go to Benton, travel to Benton for whatever.
It's tough to gauge, again, because our parks are free. We don't have any way of, marking if people come in or out. You don't have to buy a ticket. But we know that more than 8 million people a year visit Arkansas State Parks.
Yeah. We got to cut it off there, guys, because we are simply out of time. We thank you for the hour.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you very much for watching See Arkansas First. And see you next time.
Next time on Doc Martin.
We're here.
Martin